Hello there, my name is James and today I'm going to give my first impressions of the Evolve Big Alpha. So Evolve is the upcoming game from Turtle Rock Studios, the creators of Left 4 Dead. It is a game where 4 hunters play off against a single player controlled monster in a 4v1 matchup. So in this case here, I am the player controlled monster. And instead of the first person you get as a hunter, you play in the third person. And I feel it works relatively well, having played quite a bit of Left 4 Dead. I found that when you were playing as the infected, as first person, especially playing as a tank and things like this, it can get a bit difficult to be aware of your surroundings. One of the important points of being the monster or being the hunted is make sure that you are aware of your surroundings. You know you're being approached, when you're being attacked, what monsters are around you, that kind of thing as well. So at the beginning of the game, you are level 1 and you are very weak in comparison to the hunters. You are easily overwhelmed. It's very important that you remember that you are being hunted. Their only goal is to kill you. So what you need to do is you need to kill wildlife and you need to feed on them. As you feed, you fill up this blue circular bar. Also as you feed, you gain armor. So it's important that you note that armor is basically you take damage from armor before you take damage from your pool of health. Your health does not regenerate, but your armor does, slowly over time, but you can regenerate it quickly by eating. So when you've killed enough wildlife, you eventually then level up your abilities and skills, and at which point at level 2 you are on equal footings with the hunters. You do it again, and at level 3 you are more powerful than the hunters, and you get the option to destroy the objective. So as a monster, you can win this game in one of 2 ways. You can either kill all the hunters, or you can get to level 3 and you can destroy the relay. So one thing to note is that as you are a monster, as you move around your environment, you leave tracks. So these appear as footprints for the hunters. These fade over time. So you've got to ideally use stealth and other ways to throw the hunters off your tail. So what you can do is in 2 ways. You can either crouch. If somehow as a giant monster, if you crouch walk, you don't leave any tracks. Or you can use the environment. In this case here, you can, in certain areas where there's lots of water, if you go into the water, you don't leave any tracks. So that's going to be a handy way to lose your pursuers, as I've done in here, in this case here. By moving through this pool of water, I will no longer leave tracks. However, I've already been spotted by the hunters. So usually in the very early part of the game, if you get spotted, you need to run away, because you can be easily overwhelmed, and especially when the trapper works well. The trapper can trap you in a certain area for a prolonged period of time, thus preventing your escape, and then eventually, if you're not very careful, you will then die. So, at one point when you evolve, you like to level up your skills. However, when you also evolve, you are particularly very vulnerable. You cannot move for a certain period of time, so you've got to be very careful about when you choose to evolve. You've got to ideally evolve in a safe place, away from the hunters. And as you can see here, by running through the water, you can hide your tracks and to prevent the hunters from following you when you're trying to evolve. One thing to notice also as a monster is that you also have a smell sense. So the smell will highlight enemies and wildlife on the map. So this allows you to see where your next bit of prey is going to be, or where the hunters are, so you can move away from them and ideally not get killed. So you can see here I finally leveled up enough so I can evolve. So by climbing up this waterfall, I thought by doing this I could hide my tracks, and then sitting in this pool of water I choose to evolve. So as a monster, you have 4 skills you can choose from. You have a rock throw, which is a ranged attack, a leap smash, some fire breath, and also a charge ability. So the fire breath is a nice attack, it's area of effect, you can take down multiple enemies with it. The rock throw is nice, I don't use it in this video, but it's one of your only ranged abilities you have as this form of monster. So as this monster you're primarily a melee character, so you have very little range capabilities, so the rock throw is basically all you get. You also have a charge ability, and this charge ability is very good as both a defensive and an offensive skill. You can use it to close the distance between your opponents, but you can also use it to run away if you're getting overwhelmed. And you also have a leaping smash, where you just basically jump in the air and smack the ground and send your enemies flying. Again, best used in multiple groups, and you can best use to knock your opponents away from you. One of the things that I really particularly like about playing as a monster, you do feel particularly powerful, you feel like you can very easily dominate your environment. But at the same time you feel very vulnerable, especially with the fact that it's 4v1. So you can easily be outmatched by a very good team. So you've really got to think and plan your approach. Obviously, if you're playing as a hunters and you don't see the monster, again, you get very nervous. You don't know what they're doing, they're slowly leveling up. If you're playing as a hunted and you don't see the monster at all till they get to level 3, you're going to have a very bad time. Because he has time to build up his abilities and armor before he then comes to try and kill you. So you've got to get that balance of moving away from your enemies but trying to damage them, but also making sure that you level up your abilities and armor. Because as you evolve, while you get more health and better abilities, you lose your pool of armor, so you have to then build that up again. One thing to note is that you can kill, obviously you kill wildlife, but you need to level up your skill by eating them. There are certain enemies in there that are called albino, and these basically give unique buffs. So when you kill this enemy, you gain a certain buff, and it can be anything. So it can be things like, say if you're a hunter, it can be your weapons do increase damage. Or if you're playing as a monster, it can be, you know, your smell has certain range, your armor regenerates quicker. Those kind of things as well. The interesting thing to note is that the buff can be picked up by any member of the game. So you could be killing a powerful enemy to get a buff, and you could be driven off by the hunters who can then pick up that buff. So you've got to be very careful about killing monsters, or killing a monster and then leaving the pickup, because you might leave the enemy team. So you can see here on here, I'm currently under fire, so I then use the charge ability to close the distance. Oh, I say close the distance, move away from my attackers, allow me to get some more feeding in. Now, to make things certain easier on the hunters, as you feed, or you can set off birds, and these birds will come in and they'll show up and look the map for the hunters, telling them that the monster has been at this location, same way as your tracks. So you've got to be very careful that you don't run into these animals as you do your feeding and also the environment. There are also certain parts of the environment that you can only traverse as the monster. So as the Goliath, the monster here, you get to climb up walls or things like this. So on the screen now you can see I'm trying to find a place to evolve to level 3 with a point where I can finally destroy the objective and really have a great advantage over the hunters. You can see I'm moving through the water. Again, as I mentioned, one important thing to do as the monster is to use the environment to your advantage. So essentially, by moving through the water, I'm preventing myself from leaving tracks, thus making myself harder to detect. So I think it's a nice way that, obviously as a monster, you've got to use your environment to your advantage, but the same way as a hunter as well. But obviously more as the monster, because obviously you're outmatched. There's only one of you, but now that fact that you are level 3, you now have a significant advantage over the hunters. You have a very large pool of health, and your attacks are very powerful. As you can see in the example here, I've chosen to specialise in just 3 attacks. My 3 attacks, and they are now max level, so they now do an extra 150% damage. One important thing to know as well as the monster, in this case you have stamina. So as you jump, you lose stamina. So the stamina is represented by these 3 little notches under the crosshair. So you jump around the environment, you lose stamina. And obviously, but the large jump allows you to cover a large distance and either close a gap or make your escape from your opponents. So what I'm doing here on screen is that I'm trying to build up my armor before I attack the power relay, at which point I expect to find all the hunters, because all I have to do is destroy the relay and I win the game. So if they can kill me before I destroy the relay, they win the game. Very good. So my overall thoughts of the monster, like I've mentioned, you can feel very powerful, especially at level 3. You can do a lot of damage very quickly. You can take a lot of damage before eventually dying. But at the same time, again, you can be very decimated by a very, very skilled team. However, at level 3 you might be particularly overpowered. I played the alpha, for about 8 hours over the weekend, and when you were a level 3 monster, I've never saw anyone lose a level 3 monster. So I think particularly you might do maybe a bit too much damage at this stage in the game. But again, I'll cover my thoughts of playing as a hunters in another video. So again, all I'm doing is trying to buff up my armor, and then I'm going to now finally lay waste to my enemies, kill the hunters. So you can see here, they can drug me and these kind of things as well, but it will make no difference, as I'm just about to now smack them into absolute oblivion. So we'll love these melee characters. You do so much damage and they're dead, and then you just feast on their body. So as almost multiplayer games have to have nowadays, they have a perk system. perk system is done slightly differently. As beginning of the game, you choose a perk. So it could be, you say, you have X amount extra armor, you reduce damage by a certain amount. In this game, I chose to reduce feeding time by 15%. So obviously, you've got to choose perk that suits your playstyle, but you unlock these perks as you level up. So you can see here, I'm now setting this guy on fire. Somehow I'm setting him on fire whilst he's in water. Don't know how that works. I apologise here, my capture software screwed up slightly there. So he's now dead. I threw him around, and he's now just hovering in the water. So when you kill an opponent, I say kill them, you put that, you reduce their health to 0. You basically, it's like Left 4 Dead, they go down, they're down, they can use their pistol. So you can either focus on them, or you can focus on their squads. One thing I particularly think is a problem, especially as the monster, is that in frantic firefights, some of your skills are hard to aim because there's no lock-on ability. So if you're doing something like a leaping smash, you've got to hold the smash while you aim. And obviously if you miss, then that's your attack gone. I feel that maybe this game, it might be better implemented with some kind of lock-on system as the monster. Just so you can lock onto a particular hunter and focus your attacks on them. Because in very frantic firefights, your skills require precise timing and aiming. But again, I guess at the same time, it's balanced in such a way that it rewards practice and careful aiming of your skills, rather than locking on and just firing blindly. One thing I do think it needs to improve is I do think the dash, the charge ability for the Goliath is short-lived. I don't think you can dash particularly far or particularly long distance. But when you do dash, you can steer slightly. So you do have that kind of aspect of you're not stuck in one place. I'm not sure if I prefer a dash where you can't move, but you could have a longer distance, or the dash it's got here. But again, I guess it'll come out again for in testing. So overall, I feel this is so far my experience with the game has been good. I have a good time playing it. I've had lots of fun, even playing by yourself with your friends. You can have a very good time. However, I don't know if it's going to be worth the price tag in its current state, but again, it's hard to make that kind of judgment with it being in alpha. I mean, we only had a short time to play it. Only had about 8 or 9 hours playing the game. So I'll obviously have to see how that comes across in the later game when it actually gets released. So those are my initial thoughts. I'd just like to thank you for watching the video and listening to me rant about a game for about 12-13 minutes. So thanks for watching. If you'd like to, if you like the video, give it a like, leave me a comment and I will reply. And if you'd just like to share this video with friends, that would be great. So again, thank you for watching, and good night. Farewell.